Good morning, guys. Grade 9, welcome back. Today we're going to start the first session in fourth quarter. We are going to pass a new branch of science. We're going to talk about the earth science. So you're supposed to change your book, return the life science book, and get the earth science book. So we're going to start to study the astronomy or studying the space. Something is interesting, and I know that a lot of people of you waiting to learn about space and knowing about the different celestial objects that found in the space, and you have a lot of questions. So we're gonna try to answer most of your questions or all of your questions, and try to satisfy your passion about space. So today, inshallah, we're gonna start in chapter 18, section 1, astronomy, the original science. So here we start, okay, as we know, the first thing come to your mind once we say astronomy or the space, you start to remember some words which are very interesting: planets, sun, stars, moons, even you could remember asteroids, comets, meteoroids, and the meteoroids, and something like that. So a lot of words you may hear before or you may read about them before, but you still have a lot of questions. So let's start from the beginning here, guys. By the end of this lesson, we should be able to list the planets in the order in which they orbit the sun, explain how scientists measure distance in space, describe how the planets in our solar system were discovered, and finally describe three ways in which the inner planets are different than outer planets. So let's start. What is astronomy? Actually, we said that astronomy is the study of the universe. Although ancient culture did not fully understand how the planets are, they're considered to be the establisher of these science. What does it mean? So astronomy, like any scientist, start from scratch, start from the beginning by simple observation, hypotheses, and assumptions of some people who are interested in that field. So from old ancient, even in the great ancient of old Egyptians, okay, or pharaohs, they were okay interested about the space. Also, you could find in their temples or you could find in their parchments. There was a lot of observation about the different actions and phenomena that happen in the space. Then the Greek philosophers and later, okay, the old scientists and so on till that moment, we still searching and studying and try to find more and more about the space. So like this astronomy starts from a very long time ago by simple observations of some things that happen in this blue or black sky light, and they start to modify this hypothesis and these assumptions, and as time passes and they get more technology and they get more tools, so they able to check this hypothesis. Some of them are correct, some of them is modified, and some of them were completely wrong. So like this, we said that people in ancient culture used the seasonal cycles to determine when they should plant, they harvest crops, and they call observation to study at night sky. So here, let's see. After time, or nowadays, we have a very solid science called astronomy. We have a lot of information about our solar system and even other solar systems and the different galaxies. Okay, so let's start here. What make us or to have this passion to know about the solar system or to know about the space and making this kind of science, which is astronomy? Actually, if we just look to our daily life, we're gonna find the time we do everything regarding to a time. So what the definition of time? What is time? So actually time has no definition unless there is a certain actions happen or there is certain changes happen. That means imagine that you are in completely dark room that is completely isolated about the external environment. So could you are gonna feel the time? Actually not, because there is no changes happen, but just a little window in this room, it could make you observe the sunset and the sunrise and the different okay, shades of the sun during the day, which give you a feeling of time. So from ancient civilizations, they observed that time is related to some changes that happen in the space or they happen in the sky, like sunset, sunrise, different phases of the moon, and so on. That's what give them the definition of the time. So like this, you could find that our calendar nowadays is divided into years, and the years divided into months, and months divided into weeks, and weeks days, and so on. Each interval of these times or each period of this time represent a certain action that happen in the space. For example, a day that the Earth need to make one complete turn around its axis. That means from the sunrise to the next sunrise, okay, That's 1 day. Also here you could find a month that the time needed, okay, for the moon to make one complete turn around the earth, okay. So we could observe this by different phases of the moon. The year that the time needed for the earth to make one complete turn around the sun, and we could observe this by the different seasons, okay, and the different climates that happen. So like this, okay, we find the time actually based on the different movement or of celestial body on our solar system. So from a long time ago, scientists, as we said, were interested about studying space, and they started to put a lot of hypotheses and assumptions about how the space is arranged, how these planets, stars, okay, and the Earth are located regarding to each other. So we have a lot of theories, okay. It started by a scientist, his name is Ptolemy. So Ptolemy considered to be the first one who started to put a theory about the arrangement of planets in our solar system, and he assumed that the Earth is the center. That's why we call this model the geocentric model. So he called that the center in the middle of the solar system, in which the sun, stars, planets, moons, everything rotates around the Earth. Actually, this theory, okay, was dominated for a long time, and it was accepted by a lot of people in that time, and they keep years believing that the earth is the center of the universe. And actually till that moment there are some people still believe that the earth is the center of the universe. But later, another scientist, his name is Copernicus. Okay, so Copernicus actually has another idea. Okay, he has, as you can see in the picture here, he thought or he said that the sun is the center of our solar system, in which the different planets and moons rotate around the sun. And he put this theory, okay, but actually it was not accepted because most people in that time they accept the Ptolemy theory or the geocentric model, but the heliocentric model of Copernicus was not that accepted, okay. So Copernicus keep years tried to convince people about his theory, but actually no one believed him in his time. But later we discovered that he was right. So then another science, Tycho Perry case, Tycho Perry, actually he got a lot of information and started to analyze the idea of Copernicus and Ptolemy, and he got his new theory. So his new theory, okay, said that actually that the center, okay, or did he just said Earth and the other planets revolve around the sun, while, okay, so his idea that the Earth's center or the center of the universe, okay, but a little difference than the Ptolemy theory, okay, because he saw that the sun and the moons, okay, revolve around the Earth. The sun and the moon revolve around the Earth, while the Earth, okay, so while the other planets, so the sun and the Earth revolve around the sun and the moon revolve around the Earth, while the other planets revolve around the sun. So he assumed that there is two motions, okay? That means the sun already revolve around the Earth, while the other planets except Earth revolve around the sun. Of course, this theory is not true, okay? But somehow in that time, okay, some people accept the idea. So then here later we get another scientist, okay, starts to put his theory, okay, or to put his observations. Actually, Kepler was a magnificent scientist who actually make a good addition for the astronomy science, because Kepler just stated the laws of planetary motion, or he put just two laws which are very, very important, and they still used until that moment. The most important thing that he said that all planets revolve around the sun in elliptical paths. So he somehow give an idea how the shape or how is the shape of the orbits in which the planets return or they revolve around that sun. Later, okay, there is another scientist, okay, that start to give more about his that's here, okay, or this Galileo. So Galileo, you may heard about him, the most famous scientist about the space, because of the first one he make a telescope that could observe different objects in the space. Okay, so he become very famous because of this invention. And once he got a telescope and started to improve the power of this telescope, he was able to find the different, okay, or he different some mountains and some craters on the surface of the moon, the different phases of Venus, and also he observed the moons of Jupiter. So like this, that's established the idea of Copernicus, okay, because this changes or these observations which Galileo observed by his telescope support that planets rotate around the sun. So somehow that give evidence for Copernicus theory, okay, against the Ptolemy theory. After that, Isaac Newton, the famous scientist who discovered the laws of motion and the gravity, he put the law of gravity and say that the biggest object has more gravity than the smallest one, so the largest body could attract the smaller one, which means an idea that planets, because they are smaller than stars, so planets rotate around the stars, and because moons are smaller than planets, so moons could rotate around the planets. So like these guys, we start to arrange, or scientists year after year, they start to arrange their thoughts, ideas, assumptions, and start to correct them. And somehow we start to get a clear image about how the space look like. So of course here we find that nowadays, or the modern astronomy, kind of as we have the invention of telescope, and now we have a lot or different types of telescope with different power. So we could find this that the gravity were two okay milestones in the development of modern astronomy. That mean here after we Newton's discovery, okay, we made a lot of discoveries about the solar system, okay, but we do not learn about the galaxy, or we know about there is something as galaxy bigger than our solar system and our cosmic neighbors until 1920, which means in the modern age which we already live in. Okay, that means not that far, just about more than 100 years, which is considered a young age regarding to the science. So here then we find Edwin Hubble, okay, so Edwin Hubble, this one, okay, or that scientist, the one who already made the Hubble telescope, the most famous telescope as we know, okay. So this telescope, or once we have this telescope, okay, we just able to, once we have uh, the ability of the telescopes to observe further and further objects. So we discovered that we have different galaxies, okay, that found in the universe, and our solar system is a part of this galaxy. And we just know that there are some galaxies beyond the Milky Way galaxy, and so on. So the data of Edwin, okay, confirmed that or confirmed the belief that some astronomers that the universe is much larger than the galaxy. That means the galaxy is considered as a very small part of the universe. And today, larger and better telescopes on the Earth and in space new could give us a lot about information and give you us hint about the size of the space and how big it is. So like these guys that represent how the solar okay or how sorry the universe look like it's very, very, very big, okay, and we just like a dot in that very large, okay, sheet. So next time, inshallah, we're gonna talk about the different telescopes, okay, and how they work and how we could use the telescope to gather information about the space. So that's the end of our lesson. Please study very well from your textbook, and if you have any question or something's not clear, I am waiting to listen to your questions. Thank you guys, and goodbye.